Hey, this is Hammer with my first ever game against another Bretonnian player. So my first instinct was to bring out my tournament list because I've become so comfortable with it. But instead I decided to have some fun and bring out a triple Lord list. So the bottom left I got a Trebuchet, 3 Peg Knights, 2 units of 10 Bowmen. My double Paladin unit is just a little different. My BSB has the Sword of Might, Enchanted Shield, and Dawnstone for a 1-up rerollable. And his Paladin Escort has the Ogre Blade and the Charm Shield. Still have the War Banner and full command in that unit. I got a Vanguarded Mounted Yeoman behind that house, Trebuchet, Grail Knights full command, Banner Swiftness. Brought out the Grail Relic this time. Then I have a unit with my General. And so my General is my second Lord. And this guy has a great weapon, the Questing Vow, of course, the Virtue of Confidence, so he can reroll hits and wounds and challenges, Gauntlet of the Duels, challenges cannot be refused, and the Gromrel Great Helm, so he's got a 2-up rerollable. So, pretty survivable, and supposedly really good in a duel. So, just a different build to take. Also in that unit, I've got my level 4 of Life with Chronic Command, so it's a stubborn unit with Standard of Discipline for the Leadership 10 bubble, and then a General who can knock people around in challenges. So the Far Knight unit is my Heroic Killing Blow Generals unit with full command. He's got the same build as usual. And then already vanguarded behind those ruins in the top right of the board is another unit of Mounted Yeoman. So, horrible iPhone picture, but he's got 5 Peg Knights to the left of that woods. He's got a Trebuchet off the screen on the hill. He's got 9 Grail Knights, full command, 16 Bowmen with Musician and Flaming attacks, and a big 15 bust of Knights Errant with the Errantry banner, and his Heroic Killing Blow General, who's running the Heartwood Lance build. Sort of behind them, his level 4 on Heavens, so he's running a solo Prophetess with Talisman of Preservation. Another unit of 16 Bowmen, 5 Mounted Yeomen, 45 or so-ish Men-at-Arms with a level 2 of Beast in the prayer icon. He's got another big 15 bust of Knights of the Realm with his BSB, who I believe had the Gromrel build with the Sword of Might, and another level 2, I think that was Life, maybe Beast, and had the Crown of Command. And then on the far right, he's got another Trebuchet. So I was hoping, praying to the lady, maybe I'd get a chance to go first, but it wasn't meant to be. So this is Bad Guys turn 1. So my opponent has had plenty of experience with Brett vs. Brett, and he knows it's all about who's going to make the first long charge. And so as you can see, he's moving up very cautiously and not giving me any easy ones. In the middle, it's the same thing. And towards the left, he moves up his unit of 5 Pegasus Knights there. I believe to try to bait a charge with my Peg Knights, which I was happy to do. And my thinking at the time was, hey, if he's facing that way towards the edge of the board, you know, he's going to have more attacks than me, but I'll have a couple more high strength attacks than him. And if I beat him, a big 275 point unit's going to run off the board. But if I lose, there's still 50-50 chance for me to get away, so I was happy to make that charge. Shooting and magic didn't really do anything. I think he may have taken down one of my Grails with a Treb, but that's about it. So, good guys turn 1. Go ahead and charge my Peg Knights in on the left. More towards the center. I didn't really think this move through very well with my Mounted Yeoman, so playing kind of fast, trying to get the game done before it got too late. But the way I have him now, it doesn't accomplish too much. Basically, he can still charge my BSB's unit if he wants to. It'd be a long charge. Or he can risk hitting the flank of my mounted yeoman and getting him on an overrun, which is a fairly long overrun. But it would have been much more effective if I left that unit parallel to the board instead of the way they are, perpendicular, and instead moved my BSB's unit much more aggressively over to the left, such that he couldn't charge me without running into my mounted yeoman. Because as it stands right now, I barely moved up my BSB's unit at all, and now he can just back up easily without any risk of charging. So didn't think that one through too well. So towards the center, I charged my Grail Relic into the mounted yeoman. Also put Shield of Thorns and +2 toughness buff on that unit. So after I beat this yeoman, if his general's unit decides to risk it and charged my Grail Relic, and there'll be a tough nut to crack and be able to hold on. So I figure he might risk that to try to overrun into my general's unit. So that's why I buffed him. So also I moved my mounted yeoman up on the right, as you can see. Again, really a kind of a fast redirect with not as much thinking as I should have put into this move. So again, it kind of speed bumps things, but really doesn't accomplish what I want to, because you know I can't move my Heroic Kingbow General's unit aggressively under it, because if I move too far to the right, he can still charge me no problem. So I should have either done like a conga line redirect or anything. I really could have positioned them in a much smarter way. So hopefully a lesson learned. So close combat here, yeah, just a disaster. I don't think I did a single wound to his unit, and he killed one of my Peg Knights. So he broke my unit. I fled, and I fled right through the Kemrian quicksand, so lost another Peg Knight from that. I still think it was worth the risk. If I had landed my attacks, I really could have gotten a big points pickup. However, another thing I never thought of going into this combat was that he actually had a banner and a unit of Peg Knights, which is almost unheard of. So that gave him another combat risk to beat me here. See, I think this is showing after Magic Shield of Thorns, maybe. No, this is after combat. So we only kill 2 of them, I guess, but we did beat him and run him down. So bad guys turn 2. Gonna go out of order a little bit, but basically his Peg Knights charged my Bowman unit, who fled through my Trebuchet and panicked it. His Men-at-Arms charged my rightmost mounted yeoman unit, who actually rolled double ones to stay, thankfully. Just no reach out of the board on bad guys turn 2. In his magic phase, he casts a heaven spell at my mounted yeoman on the left side of the board and just obliterates him. And his bowmen attempt to pick off the last wound of the Peg Knight. So on good guys turn 2, it's time for somebody to make an aggressive charge. So being an aggressive player myself, I figure it might as well be me. So I'll take my Grail Knights with the Banner of Swiftness. I had a 50% chance to make the charge against his Grail Knights, but I fail it. And now he has a much easier charge. Still pretty long, but much more doable than mine was. So towards the center of my magic phase, I throw a Dwellers on his general's unit with the Knights Errant and kill 10 Knights with Dwellers. Just brutal. Yeah, really wanted to take down his general, but you can't complain about 10 Knights. So it's just another view of Good Guys turn 2. Yeah, so after close combat on my turn with the men-at-arms, I had one mounted yeoman that actually survived, and he decided not to pursue with his men-at-arms and reformed more towards the center. So I got one mounted yeoman there who actually is nicely blocking his BSB's unit. Actually, not really. I guess since he's fleeing, he could just redirect into my Heroic Killing Blow General's unit anyways, but still, I'm glad he survived. So, bad guy's turn 2. He makes a series of charges all across the board. His Peg Knight's coming into my flank. I'm actually not that worried about it. One, I know I'm going to be steadfast for a while. He doesn't have any ranks. And two, I have a ton of combat res in that unit with my BSB and War Banner. And my Strength 6 Paladin is already in base contact with that Peg unit. And I can make way with my BSB with Strength 5. So, I feel pretty confident that I can actually beat this unit, even though they're in my flank, and hopefully run them down. His Grail Knights into my Grail Knights, of course, just hoping he'd fail the charge, but I also held because I got +2 toughness on my Grail Knights, so it'll make me a little bit harder to wound, and yeah, hopefully I'll be able to stick there. So towards the center, he charges the remainder of his Heroic Killing Blow General's unit into my big unit with my general. Somewhat surprised with this charge, but I guess he decided to get aggressive and see if he could steal some points off me. Also takes his men-at-arms into my Grail Relic, which I'm not worried about. And his BSB's 15 bus on the top right decides not to charge my mounted yeoman and redirect into my Heroic Killing with General's unit. Just somewhat surprised by it, but I guess he's playing it safe over on that side of the board and just zoning me out. So shooting phase, he picks off that mounted yeoman. Magic didn't do too much, but he got Harmonic Convergence off on his Heroic Killing Blow General's unit, who proceeded to double Heroic Killing Blow my general. So, yeah, this is the first time I had taken this Lord. In theory, he was a really good duelist, combat Lord. Really want to give him a shot, but yeah, he got smacked around. So, I'll have to try him in a future game, but besides that, his general's unit held by getting those 3 wounds and the charge, so that was a bit unfortunate, but I think I can beat him in the next round. The Grail Relic held, of course, and killed a number of men-at-arms between Shield of Thorns and their attacks. Don't have a picture of it, but in the Grail combat, my Grail Knights did actually hold, which was very fortunate for me. And my BSB's unit beat and ran down his 5 Peg Knights, so nice 275 pickup there. This picture is just showing the fate of my Peg Knights. I think this might have been on my previous turn, actually, but regardless, they got swallowed by the Kemerian quicksand. So Good Guy's turn 3. So I'd beaten his 5 Peg Knights on his turn, and on my turn I decided to reform my BSB's unit towards a Grail combat. So looking at the combat, it's my 8 Grail Knights against his 8, so I got a 50-50 chance of winning this. And if I lose it, it's probably not going to be by much. With my BSB there for the reroll, I'm confident I can hold and countercharge on my next turn. So it's really looking like I'm going to dominate this side of the board and be able to sweep towards the middle. So more towards the center, I considered charging my Heroic Killing Blow General's unit into his men-at-arms. They would have been in the flank. But I only had 3 ranks on that knight unit because a Treb shot had taken out 2 of my knights last turn. So I didn't think I'd have enough to break his steadfast. And I played the conservative route and reformed him, as you can see, which was a huge mistake because the way I have him oriented now, his 15 bus can just sneak right under my charge arc and not have any worry of me countercharging. So definitely a big mistake in the movement phase. So close combat here with the grails. So I go ahead and lop 2 of his off with my strength 4 attacks. He comes back and kills 3 of mine. So he wins by 1. I'm on a 7 rerollable, which, you know, is no problem. But I fail it, and I get run down. So this was just a huge point in the game. So not only did I lose my 380 something point Grail Knight unit, but I have lost the opportunity to countercharge him with my BSB's unit and pick up those points. So yeah, definitely a huge fail in that rerollable 7. However, in this combat, my level 4's unit was able to grind it out with his general's unit, or what was left of it. So we beat him. He rolled 12 to get away, but we matched it and ran him down. So that was a nice pickup, a big 15 bus plus his general. And towards the center, just a pillow fight with the Grail Relic and his men-at-arms. And that's the end of good turn 3. So this is the only picture I have of bad turn 4. Basically his 15 bus moved under my charge arc of my Hero Killing Blow General's unit, as I described. And in the combat phase, my Grail Relic failed at Stubborn 8, but got away. We remembered to remove the relic itself later. Since it is a banner, it needs to be removed when it breaks from combat. So good turn 4. First of all, his Grail Knights are actually down towards the bottom of the board. He forgot to move them, so I allowed him to move them on my turn. So that's where they're supposed to be. But I moved my BSB's unit around as far as I possibly can to try to chase him. And move my archers forward to try to box him in. I end up losing half the unit to the stupid Cambrian quicksand. So that stuff not only swallowed my peg knights, but it's also picking on my innocent peasants. So more towards the center. Yeah, it's kind of an awkward position with my level 4's unit. So as you can see him now, I had no way to reform to face him directly in lance formation. And I also couldn't wheel past the building to get out of their charge arc. So decided to just stay in lance formation and allow them to flank charge me, because this way at least my level 4 will still be protected by knights. If I went 5 wide and faced them, they'd be able to direct attacks at my level 4, which I don't want. My Hero Killing Blow General's unit, yeah, so once he moved underneath my charge arc the previous turn, I saw, you know, pretty much 2 options. Either I can march right up in his face and just take the front charge, or try to swift reform and move as far away as possible. So I took the latter option in the hopes that he wouldn't make this charge. Also, my Grail Relic fails to rally. So going to bad turn 5, so clearly his men-at-arms gets into the flank of my level 4's unit, but worse than that, his 15 bus gets into the rear of my Hero Killing Blow General's unit. So last turn I tried to do as much as I could to shore that unit up. I regrew 2 knights, put a +2 toughness on them, but it's just not going to matter. There's too much combat res. And yeah, so the reason I held was if I chose to flee, drawing a line from his center to my center, there's a real good chance I would flee right through my Grail Relic that was running off the board. So in this picture we actually remove the banner part, and it's just 1 peasant left south of those knights. But you know, I only would have had to roll like a 3 or something on my flee roll, and I would have been off the table automatically. So figured the odds of him making the charge were lower than me running off the table. But you know, in hindsight, definitely would have been a better choice to just march up in his face, receive the charge, and then have a 50-50 chance of getting away after he beat me. Yeah, so in this case, there's no way I'm gonna survive this charge. So it's just another overview of that, of the board in general. After close combat, yeah, clearly his 15 bus beats my general's unit. He didn't even kill all that much, but you know, I failed my leadership test and bounced right through his Grail Knights off the board. But also his men-at-arms beat my level 4's unit, who fails her stubborn 8, and the men-at-arms with their 2d6 run down my level 4's unit. So I just lost a ton of my army on this turn, and yeah, things are looking pretty rough. So going to good turn 5, starting on the shooting phase, I was desperate to get points at this point in the game. You know, I had a couple tough breaks and bad decisions, so landed Trebuchet Rock right on this Prophetess. Failed her ward save, but I rolled a 1 to wound. So yeah, 300 plus potential points down the drain for me there. So this is the picture from the previous turn. So on good turn 5, I charged the flank of those men-at-arms, and I beat him, ran him down, and stopped 1 inch away from his Grail Knights, which was really disappointing, because if I had gotten into the rear of those Grail Knights, I would have fought that combat on his turn, beat him, they would have run off the table, and I could easily reform, and on my next turn, get a charge into his BSB's unit, and possibly win the game right there. But 1 inch away, so close. So on bad turn 6, he had nothing to charge, so he just moves his BSB's unit as far away from me as he can. So his Grail Knights failed their March test, which I think was a mistake since they're immune to psychology, but since we played it that way, they couldn't move out of my charge arc, so he decides to just turn around and face me, hoping to get lucky. His level 4 cast Heaven spell at my knight unit and killed 3 of them, I believe. So on my turn 6, I go ahead and charge the Grail Knights. Only killed 1 of them, but I crushed him in combat res. But he rolls double 1s to stay, and that's the end of the game. So I really enjoyed this game. For one, it was nice to see another Bretonnian player with a fully painted army on the table, which is pretty rare in my area. And 2, it was just a really tactical game. Playing a mirror matchup, you know, we each know exactly what the other has to bring to the table, and it just comes down to who's going to make the big mistake, who's going to risk the long charge, who's going to fail a big roll. I mean, I really like playing another Bretonnian opponent. 2 fast armies like this just make for an exciting game. In terms of the list, I think my list actually had a fairly good advantage against his, since he had invested in so many support casters and larger bowman units and such. So I have 4 knight buses, each of which is nasty in combat. So besides my grails, every other knight unit has combat characters, and since I have 4 of them, I figured I should have the maneuver advantage against his buses. And I also had the 2 mounted yeoman units to really play the aggressive style that I like to play with the redirection. So it was definitely a big mistake I made early, was my redirects initially were not good for me to get a turn 2 charge. So that kind of messed me up. Also, you know, of course, failing the big point in the game was failing the rerollable 7 with my grails, which would have allowed me to dominate the left side of the board and bring my BSB closer to the center so I wouldn't have failed those stubborn 8s on my Grail Relique and level 4's unit. But also definitely important lesson, if you're zoning somebody out with my heroic Killing Blow Lord against his BSB's 15 bus, I got to be content to just let that unit sit there and let him come to me. I'm not using my unit, but he's not using his either. And that's a fair trade, so something to remember. Not to be too aggressive, but regardless, it was a great game. Very friendly opponent, very experienced tournament player as well, who's a big fan of the 15 bus, which I haven't tried yet. But anyways, I hope you guys enjoyed, and next game will be against a Dark Elf army at 3,000 points. Thanks for watching.